Age of Imprisonment comes out in less than a week. Guys, I'm so excited. And my last video did way better than I expected it to do. The views just blew up exponentially compared to the previous video. So we've actually got more predictions for you today, but just thank you so much for the support on that last video. Just like minute after minute, I'm refreshing and just seeing more views, more comments. I love the discussion we had in there. If you haven't checked out that video yet, go ahead and look at it, because apparently I'm just awesome and everyone loved me. Just kidding. There's like 6 people who out to get me or something because they didn't know what game I was talking about. And on that note, we're going to get into my predictions for Hyrule Legends, Age of the Calamity, Imprisonment, War of the Wild Kingdom? Okay, so that mysterious construct got a lot of love in the last 2 videos that I made. This time I'm doing more of just like general predictions over the game, just things that might happen or things that I saw in the trailers that I wanted to talk about and I just never did. But as I got more and more into the weeds of it, especially the end of this game, I came across the most amazing prediction yet. And honestly, the more I keep thinking about it and the more I look into it, you'll see Breath of the Wild up right now because I looked into every single cutscene in Breath of the Wild. And oh my gosh, I actually think like 90% chance that this crazy ending prediction that I have is actually going to come true. So can't wait to get to it. These first 3 predictions are going to be just kind of I'll kind of lightning round them. But these last like 3 are actually awesome. So if you want to skip to those, you can follow the timestamps that'll. So first prediction, ironically, is about the mysterious construct, even though I just said these aren't about the mysterious construct. So prediction is, I think the mysterious construct will get possessed by Ganondorf. This isn't a stretch of a prediction. I think this is very likely. The clip I'm going to pull up here is from the latest trailer.
A power that great tests the very depths of its bearer's soul. Just like the secret stones. It seems you can be used for good or evil.
So you can see he mentions like the secret stones. He's comparing something to those secret stones. So he's not talking about the secret stones, he's talking about something. And not just a thing, because he says you. He doesn't say it. He says you. He's talking directly to a person that is an item. So I'm thinking it has to be the construct, and I could be wrong, but I'm thinking it's the construct, and I think it totally makes sense for the construct to turn evil at some point. The Warriors games just like to do this, where like a playable character is also an enemy, because they already have animations for it and everything like that. But here's the thing, I think it's a reference to Girahim. And I mentioned this in my very first video. Not a lot of people watch that one, and that's okay, don't watch it, it's not that good. But if the the mysterious construct, if that is a reference to Fi, then it makes sense there would be a reference to Girahim. Okay, this next one's also a given. I'm not even going to pull up the clip, but the prediction is that we will learn more about Zonai history, and that's kind of like boing, like of course we are. But specifically, there's scenes in Tears of the Kingdom. I'm not going to pull them up. I don't really have time to do that right now. But there are scenes where they are first trying to help Zelda figure out how to get home, and they talk about the like history and legends of the draconification process and how there are some rituals there in the ancient Zonai. It seems that they don't really know a lot about the Zonai past. I think people who have played the demo have talked about this too, how like the first few missions seem like they're doing research and they're kind of like exploring the depths really for the first time. So we explore the depths as Link in Tears of the Kingdom, but I think there's a lot there that Zelda, Minru, and Rauru experienced for the first time that we didn't see in Tears of the Kingdom that we will see this time. And just like throwing out some things, there's a bunch of mining areas. There's 3 skeletons of dragons. That might be something interesting that we find. So that's just, some quick thought. I think we're going to find out more about the Zonai past. I don't think we will find out anything about like the goddesses, and I definitely don't think we're going to see scenes of it. I think it's really just going to be told to us through like context. Next, a lot of people have talked about this one. Rauru and Sonia have to have a kid for that bloodline to go through. How can we have other people with the blood with the power of light and time or whatever. You know, Zelda has a power of light and time because she's a descendant of Rauru and Sonia. If Rauru's frozen, if Sonia's, spoilers, dead, then how do we have Zelda? It only makes sense that there is a child. And I think this game will produce that child. This game will show them producing that child. This game will show the child that they have produced. That one. All right, the next prediction is with the Chamberlain character. I think that's how you say that. The character who follows their quest and writes the notes down. There's that whole side quest in Tears of the Kingdom with the stone tablets and stuff like that. Okay, Lenalia, as they call her. This is a short prediction. I think she has a lot of references, like visually, the way they designed her, to Dompe. And I haven't seen anyone talk about that. And I think it's because no one really cares. I have nothing else to add to that. I don't know what significance looking like Dompe would have, but just in case it does play a significant role, you heard it from here first. She's a reference to Dompe in some way. Yeah, okay. This prediction is that the Construct and the Korok are not in the final battle with Ganondorf, the one we know of with the sages. They are not there because there will be a separate big battle, and I think it's going to take place where the Great Forest should be, but it's not yet. And they are going to defend that area of the Great Forest, and somehow, I don't know if their battle will end there, but that's like the end of their arc is going to be finding the forest, because we know the Korok, whether it's going to be the Deku Tree or a descendant ancestor of the Deku Tree, whichever one it is, it's somehow related to the Great Deku Tree. So I think they're going to finish their arc in the forest. And before we go on, I just want to also note, like, I think this game is going to be very intentional, like more intentional than people predict. I think we all felt that Tears of the Kingdom was missing like something. Like, I think that something was just, it didn't feel complete. As big as the game was, and trust me, a huge game, I spent so much time in it, but it didn't feel complete. There was so many weird things missing, and even Age of Imprisonment can't fix a lot of that. But I think a lot of the missing context with the sages, missing info with like the child of Sonia and Rauru, like we talked about earlier, missing elements with Zelda's story, I think all of that was intentionally left out so that Age of Imprisonment could be more thought out and actually connect. So as we get into these next few theories, the reason I do think they're true, even if they are kind of wild, is because I think they've been planning this for a long time, and I think it's intentional. The space they left in Tears of the Kingdom, I think, was intentionally put there to make room for Age of Imprisonment. So I'm personally super excited for it. Let's get into these last few predictions now. Okay, now this prediction is probably the biggest one. We will see a recontextualization of the entire events of Skyward Sword, at least the important ones, okay? If you haven't seen my last video talking about how I know exactly who the Construct and Korok are, you honestly need to go see that video to really understand the context of my brain as we approach this and the rest of the video, honestly, of this video. Okay, so I'm not going to super break down everything that I went over in that video, because now I am assuming you've watched it, but in order for this recontextualization theory to make sense, you have to have this understanding that, one, Skyward Sword did not actually happen in this continuity. What do I mean by this continuity? Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and now Age of Imprisonment are going to be kind of their own continuity, their own timeline, which is separate from the rest of the Zelda games. Okay, technically Age of Calamity is in there, but it's like, it's parallel to the side. It didn't actually, it's not super canon. Okay, so all of the other Zelda games, they didn't actually happen. They are not lies. Maybe they're myth. I prefer to call them legends, okay? They are a inaccurate story of real events. I say real in this game world. So in other words, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and Age of Imprisonment is going to confirm this theory. But those two games, going to be 3 games, are basically saying that this is the actual events that happened in this world of Hyrule, and all of the other Zelda games you've played, that entire timeline with the 3 splits, all of them, those are just legends, myths, inaccurate representations. So now that you understand that Skyward Sword, the beginning of Hyrule as told by this legend, isn't an accurate account. We are going to see the accurate account, okay? But before we do, I'm going to show you how I know that they planned this, not in Tears of the Kingdom, all the way back in Breath of the Wild, okay? So watch.
To know Calamity Ganon's true form, one must know the story from an age long past. The Demon King was born into this kingdom, but his transformation into malice created the horror you see now. Stories of Ganon were passed from generation to generation in the form of legends and fairy tales.
Okay, so you can see that King Rome literally refers to these stories as legends in their own universe. All the way back in Breath of the Wild, they were trying to tell us this, and we didn't want to listen. We tried to fit Breath of the Wild into somewhere in the timeline. No, everything's at the end, it's going to converge, blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing, whether you want to agree that the timeline is separate, parallel continuity, completely thrown away, Nintendo doesn't care, or here's one that a lot of people in denial like to say, is that no, it's not a fake timeline, it's not legend, it just takes place really far in the past. If you want to believe that, either way, the point is null, because here's what it means. Breath of the Wild does not have to be tied to the rest of the games. Whichever way you place it, whichever way you want to believe it. Either way, Breath of the Wild does not want to be tied. Do it to where it's still, so it doesn't feel cheap. Well, I think this idea with the timeline of legend, as I'm calling it, I think this is a really, really graceful way of doing what people already know they are doing, which is separating from that timeline. Now that you have Breath of the Wild, you're establishing, hey, we're making a new continuity. Do I think that everything in Tears of the Kingdom was planned? Me personally, I don't. But I do think that they're trying to fit into the lore of Breath of the Wild. They've separated from the rest of the timeline, fine. But now that they've created Tears of the Kingdom, I do think they try to make Tears of the Kingdom fit in Breath of the Wild.
But nay. Ganon was cunning, and he responded with a plan beyond our imagining. He appeared from deep below Hyrule Castle, seized control of the Guardians and the Divine Beasts, and turned them against us.
Okay, like, seriously? You're playing Breath of the Wild, and you're like, okay, the calamity's coming from underneath Hyrule Castle. That's where you end up fighting the Calamity Ganon, right? You have the scene, the little egg-themed cocoon breaks up, and then you fall a few hundred meters or whatever down the castle. That's where that big arena is, and it's like, okay, like, this is where everything was originating, was right here in this little arena zone, so I could fight this calamity. So it totally makes sense as a standalone game. It was coming from underneath the castle. Here it is. We fought it. We beat it. Calamity's done. They even have references during the Ganon fight where they're like, he's what is it? He has
given up on reincarnation and assumed his pure, enraged form.
And it really makes you think, like, oh my gosh, they showed us the beginning of the timeline in Skyward Sword. Now they're saying this is how it all ends. We're getting rid of this resurrection curse. It makes total sense. And then you play Tears of the Kingdom. Oh my gosh. It totally fits even better now. The bottom of the castle was not the Calamity Ganon. It was actual Ganondorf. His rage was causing the calamity. It just makes so much sense when you see it that way. It's amazing how they do it. So I say that to say Tears of the Kingdom is intentionally fit into Breath of the Wild's continuity, but the two of them are intentionally separate from the other Zelda games, which means the events of Skyward Sword, if they're legend, that means parts of them are true, but not the way we know them, okay? So now, let's look at Tears of the Kingdom, and I want you to see how this is retextualized. Okay, so I know I wasn't the only one when Tears of the Kingdom was coming out with the trailers that thought that the Demon King version of Ganondorf looked like Demise. Why? Surely he was actually going to be Demise, was what people thought. But then no, it was just Ganondorf, and he was just swallowing the Secret Stone. But Breath of the Wild references the Demon King. And we don't see the Demon King in Breath of the Wild. It was talking about Skyward Sword. I really do think that. I think it was trying to make connections to Skyward Sword since that was their latest game. But now they've made Tears of the Kingdom fit into that in a better way. And so here's the wild thought. He looks like Demise because he is Demise. We talked about how the construct, it's playing Fi's theme when they revealed. It's just a reference. It means the hero carries a Master Sword. No. It looks like, or it's playing Fi's theme because the construct is Fi. It looks like Link. And I know people are going to comment about this because I'm famously in my last video saying I refuse to believe it's Link. I heard another YouTuber talking about how, you know what, there's a strange connection, like the image of the art of the construct looks a lot like the final battle with Demise and Skyward Sword, the way Link stands. Of course, it looks a lot like Link. I still don't think they're going to call it Link. I think they might call it Fi. They might just give it a completely unique name. But I think this character, I do think it's female still. I think it's going to be a she because, like I said, I think it might be called Fi. And I think it is the voice in the Master Sword. Okay, so get this. So I think that construct is Fi, is Link, and is the Loftwing. I think it is all three of those characters being put in one character. So the three characters from the Legend of Skyward Sword, which was that there was a hero who had the help of an AI consciousness that was inside of the Master Sword and rode on a flying bird. That was the legend, but the actual reality of it was that it was one person, it was a construct, that it itself was the AI that ended up becoming the Master Sword, and it itself turned into the bird that they all thought was a Loftwing. So we have the Demon King, Ganondorf, is actually Demise. We have this construct is serving the purpose of the hero and of the sword and the AI consciousness. And our Zelda character. Well, we already have Zelda. And we have Rauru. And we have Sonia. I think all three of them in combination serve as the Zelda figure that we saw in Skyward Sword. Okay, so now where does that put us? I'll remind you, this prediction section, we're still in the same prediction, is that we'll see a recontextualization of the events of Skyward Sword. The real event of Skyward Sword is the curse. The repeating curse that these characters will be reborn and be in an endless fight together. That's the recontextualization I'm talking about, okay? I think we are going to see that curse. But it's not going to be this like high fantasy curse of like, darn you, Link and Zelda, you will be cursed for eternity. It's not going to be like that. No, okay? Because there was no Demise, right? Ganondorf is Demise. He's going to get locked away underground by Rauru. We know that. We also know that a calamity will come. And we know that Breath of the Wild is not the first calamity. There's at least one more, 10,000 years in the past. I don't think that was the first calamity. I think the first calamity is going to come shortly after the Demon King is sealed. And so this actually is going to go into my next prediction. This game will not end on the famous battle where the sages seal away the Demon King. A lot of people think it's going to end there. That's the last real story memory we get in Tears of the Kingdom. I disagree. Why would you have a game, if you've played a Warriors game, you know how wild they like to be. They like to get a big, fantastical ending where all of these characters can come together. You play as like 25 characters. Like, why would you lock the final battle of the game to where you can only play as 6 characters or 7 characters, however many there are? Okay, no, they're not going to do this. Okay, watch this. the resurrection curse that we're saying is going to get recontextualized, we're going to see it happen here, and this is going to confirm that it is a retelling of Skyward Sword, because we are going to see the very first calamity take place after they seal away the Demon King. His rage is going to create the first calamity from, there's not going to be a castle there because that hasn't been built yet, but from the center of Hyrule Field, the calamity is going to come out, and it is going to be the first calamity, which is, if we're talking about this being a recontextualization of the curse, okay, the Demon King isn't getting resurrected as different Ganondorfs like we've come to think in the timeline of legend. No, there's always been just one Ganondorf, but his rage has created phantoms of himself throughout the years. Those are the reincarnations. It's not actually reincarnations. It's just him bringing forth these phantoms throughout the history of Hyrule. Zelda is not getting reincarnated. She's just having descendants, okay? Rauru and Sonia have a descendant who's gonna have the blood of the goddess. As long as the royal bloodline continues, which they make sure it does, as long as that royal bloodline continues, there is a Zelda who will have the power to seal, to fight off the calamity that will come, okay? So we don't need to resurrect Zelda. There's always going to be someone with the power to seal. Now the hero is interesting. Is Link getting reincarnated all of these times? Well, no, I don't think so. That's why I think this construct is important. We have thought all of this time that Link is the hero. And he just happens to be amazing enough to wield the Master Sword. This is the cheap one I got from, what's it called? Medieval Times. Yeah, I don't have the good one. I want it. It's on my wish list. But I have this styrofoam one. Okay, so we have thought Link is the hero who wields the Master Sword. In fact, it is the Master Sword who is the hero. The Master Sword is the original hero, and the Master Sword chooses who will wield it.
Hero of Hyrule, chosen by the sword that seals the darkness. You have shown unflinching bravery and skill in the face of darkness and adversity.
I think the last two games are intentional. And I really think this third game, Age of Imprisonment, is going to solidify what they are trying to do. Like, this whole thing is Skyward Sword, and the resurrection this is actually the beginning of the timeline. It's just a retelling of the beginning of the timeline. I think that is freaking amazing. I can't wait for them to release this. Okay, so I think I got sidetracked. I was saying the first calamity is going to appear right after they seal the Demon King demise. Sorry, the Demon King Ganondorf, like this version, right? So right after they seal him, that's not going to be the end of the game. The calamity is going to rise up, and this is going to give them, from the developers, the chance to have the last battle with all the characters on the field, and they're going to be able to have one big final battle. It'll be the first calamity, and that will be the confirmation that, hey, this is the resurrection curse that you knew from the legend of Skyward Sword. And just a little side theory, this one's definitely not true, but it would be so fun to connect this all the way back around to Breath of the Wild. If this first calamity actually was the calamity from 10,000 years ago, tying back to also the theory prediction that I said that we need to see Rauru and Sonia's son. What if the ancient hero is Rauru and Sonia's son, and then that first calamity actually happens like right after this founding? That would be really cool. That would tie everything together, because it'd be like, wow, you heard about this great calamity. That actually was the first calamity. This ancient hero, we were like, why does he look Zonai? It's because this is like the first Zonai Hylian mixture that just happens to have more of a Hylian outward look. Sorry, more of a Zonai outward look. That would really be cool to fit all that together. But I know that's not true. And the biggest reason that's not true is because in Breath of the Wild, they explained that the 10,000 year ago, the calamity from 10,000 years ago, that they fended that off using Sheikah tech. Okay? We don't have Sheikah tech. I think Minru's bloodline will end up becoming the Sheikah, the guards of the royal family. And I think the Sheikah will end up developing tech based on Zonai tech, but as of now, we have only Zonai tech. We haven't even seen a Sheikah person yet. So It definitely can't be the ancient hero, but I think it will probably, I don't think we're going to see a new hero either. I think it will be the construct that ends up, filling that role, being the hero of this time, even though it is both the hero and the AI consciousness that will end up being in the sword. And so you thought I was done with that, but I actually have 2 more predictions. Okay, so I just mentioned that I think the Sheikah tech is based off of Zonai tech. And that got me thinking, one of the weirdest things is that we see the sages have masks that look like the divine beasts. But the divine beasts were built after the Zonai. So unless Zelda is just like, hey, we're gonna wear masks, we should wear masks, that look like this. Like if Zelda creates that and then that ends up influencing the Sheikah like some sort of time loop, that's not very fun. Hopefully that's not it. Here is an even crazier prediction. What if the Zonai did originate the idea of the divine beasts? So what if, while researching underground, we find divine Zonai beasts? Like, that would be really cool if there were actually, big divine beasts that looked like the divine beasts we see in Breath of the Wild, but with the green-looking tech instead of the Sheikah-looking tech. I think that would be really cool, just, again, to put context into how this all fits together and be like, oh, now it makes sense that these beasts inspired the other beasts, which inspired these masks that we wear. Yeah. Pretty wild if that's true. I don't think that's going to be true, but it would be pretty cool, and it would make sense if they did it. All right, and now we are down to my last theory. This one does tie back to what I was saying about Age of Imprisonment, how it's going to reveal that it is a recontextualization of like the origin of the resurrection kind of thing, a retelling of Skyward Sword basically. So here's the thing, with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, the thing that has been surprisingly missing is the Triforce. Why haven't we really heard of the Triforce? We've seen it, we know that it's real, but then Tears of the Kingdom was like, nah, we don't need no Triforce powers, we're gonna reveal secret stones. Like, what? Okay, what if we have this great power called the Triforce, why didn't they just have something where like the Triforce was built into little tiny pieces and those pieces gave them I don't know why they did it that way. But we haven't seen the Triforce, even though we know it exists. We see it on all of the Hylians have the tattoos of the Triforce. We see it on Zelda's hand, so we know it's real. There's the iconography all over Hyrule. We know that the Triforce exists, but we have not yet seen it. And I think if this is going to be the beginning of the Zelda sort of trifecta of Ganondorf, Zelda, and Link, then I think we need to see what Ganondorf is really after through all of this. And I think it's the Triforce. It has to be the Triforce. That has to be something that he's going after. And so why in the world is Ganondorf underneath, like underground in Hyrule Field? In Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, it makes sense. There's a big castle there. That's like the centerpiece of the game. Put the final battle underneath that centerpiece. That makes sense. But at this time period, the castle is on the Great Plateau. And so Hyrule Field, where the castle would have been, is just a field. There's nothing there. So why is Ganondorf just randomly underground in the middle of the field? Unless he's after a very specific thing. So I think he is going to be after the Triforce. I think that is going to be something that is revealed. Because, we see the final battle with Rauru sealing the Demon King, but they can easily make that scene 4 or 5 times longer and give us things that we didn't see that give us better context. So I think it's possible we see that he's actually looking for the Triforce, that it's the last thing he's looking for to kind of help destroy the world. But I don't know. I don't think they're going to do that, but I also think they're missing out if they don't explain why the Triforce isn't here. If they're going to show us the origin of the series and not show the Triforce, I think that is going to be very strange. So we'll see. We'll see if they do, and we'll see how they do it, if they do. That's all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed my theories, and I just want to, you know, if you're still watching the video, you're probably someone who just like really likes my content. Maybe you're considering subscribing, and that's good. I appreciate that. But I just want to give like a warning. This is more me like just talking off the cuff, is that like life is busy right now. Okay, like I know it probably doesn't look like it, but I'm a father. Well, actually, I'm wearing a father shirt. I have 2 kids. Okay, so one of them is about to turn 3, and the other one is 4 months. So like a wee little baby. Like there is not a lot of free time. YouTube making all these videos. This is not my job. I have a full-time job that I'm also working. I'm also like training for a marathon. I illustrate books for my mother-in-law, so like I've got a project there that I need to be working on. I don't get a ton of free time. And now that free time, which I would be playing games, like now I'm spending a lot of my free time making a video so I can get 1 video out in a week, which is crazy. I have so much more respect now for bigger YouTubers that can just like a trailer for Animal Crossing comes out, and then in 2 hours, less than 2 hours, they've got a full video talking and breaking this down. Like that blows my mind now as someone trying to make content, and it takes me a week to talk about anything, and it's so irrelevant by the time I get to make something. So I'm saying all of this because if you are going to subscribe to my channel, I appreciate it, but just know like my content's not going to come fast. It's not always going to be Zelda. We just happen to be in a stage where I'm really excited for Age of Imprisonment. But I've been wanting to talk about the Pikmin update that was announced 2 weeks ago. I'm going to want to talk about the Animal Crossing update. I have like 1,000 hours in Animal Crossing. I loved Animal Crossing. So I've got other stuff I'm going to want to talk about. If you're subscribing to this channel because you think I'm going to always be talking about Zelda stuff, it's not totally true, but I love Zelda. So if I do have awesome thoughts, then you know I'm going to want to share them and make super intricate videos like this one, even though I was planning on them being very short. Alright guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time at Vincendo Gaming.